transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances to His Lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
So yeah, yesterday was the most auspicious and wonderful day of Srila Prabhupada's appearance anniversary, which we call Vyasa Puja. And he's a representative, the Guru.
Hang on a sec. It's a Gail is still calling. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Gail is still calling on my phone. Should I accept or
Yeah,
ignore?
just accept it. Well,
if I accept it, Gail.
Or is that going to interfere with your connection?
No, it's not. Like she's on the phone with me.
Okay.
I can see you.
Just hold the phone up.
I have to with the phone and the laptop.
Yeah.
Like that way.
That's okay. Yeah, just leave your phone there. Oh, you don't have to do that. She doesn't need to see us. She just wants to hear. You don't have to hold your phone the whole time, Gulshan.
I don't know what to do. But
No, I'm just saying, just keep it close to the speaker of the laptop, and then she can hear. You don't have to hold it, though.
Now the thing is, if you accept that call and I disconnect from there, and you can connect from your side, or like.
Yeah. That's what I was going to do. I was just going to do it from my phone.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
she doesn't need to be on video. If she uses video, she's going to use up a lot of her data.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'll do.
Don't fuss. I'm going to hang up.
Yeah.
And just.
And I'm going to.
Janti will call you.
It's just easier if I watch it online later, and I'll fix it up on Saturday with Bhakti Mala for the future. Okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah, whatever works.
Okay. No worries. Okay.
Okay, nice to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, so yesterday was the most auspicious and wonderful day of celebrating Prabhupada's appearance in this world. In 1896, he appeared on this astrological day of yesterday. So wonderful day, Vyasa Puja. So yeah, it's called Vyasa Puja because the original speaker of the Vedic knowledge is Vyasadeva. So the Guru is that person that's representing Vyasadeva. So the original speaker. And that's why the speaker's seat in the temple, where they're giving the class, Bhagavatam class, that's called the Vyasasana. Vyasasana. So asana means seat, and Vyasada means Vyasadeva, the original speaker, like that. So we have Vyasa Puja, Vyasasana, like that. So the Guru is the representative of Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva, he's an incarnation of God. He's an empowered incarnation of God, specifically with the power to present the knowledge, of the Lord. So he's done a great service there, leaving us with the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata, which was composed by Vyasadeva. And then, of course, he gave us the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the other Puranas, 18 Puranas. Bhagavatam is one of the Puranas, Bhagavad Purana. And then 108 Upanishads, and then the 4 Vedas, Sama, Rig, Atharva, and Yajurveda. So he's given a lot of knowledge. And that was 5,000 years ago. He wrote all this knowledge. At that time, it was written on leaves. It was written on leaves, and they used like ink from plants, plant ink. And I remember when I was very young, some people were still using those ink pens. You know, like I can't remember what you call them.
Fountain pen. Fountain pen.
And you dip it. I think I remember.
Oh, the one that
they used to dip the pens in a little pool of ink. So like that. So yeah, the spiritual masters are presenting the same knowledge from Vyasadeva that is given. You know, so we offer respect to that disciplic succession, and Prabhupada is the most recent member of that disciplic succession. And yeah, wonderful day yesterday to remember him and pray for his mercy. Express our gratitude to him. So yeah, today we're starting a new chapter 9, The most confidential knowledge.
Oh, okay.
So this is the topmost knowledge, the most secret. Secret. The Sanskrit word for secret is guyatamam. Guya. Guya or guyatamam. So that's in this verse mentioned, guyatamam. So yeah, very secret, very confidential. Of course, Krishna is for everyone. It's not that Krishna is only for a few people. He's not only a god for the Hindus or for a few bhakti yogis. He's the father of everyone. He loves everyone. So then why do we say this knowledge is a secret then? Why doesn't it be made available to everyone? Actually, it is available to everyone, but not everyone wants it. So it's like people cut themselves off from this knowledge. Krishna wants everyone to know about who he is and who we are in our relationship with him and how we can revive our loving devotional service attitude to him. He wants everyone to know about that. But we cut ourselves off because we're just so attracted to Maya. We're so attracted to a life of sense gratification. And that cuts us off from this knowledge. So it's not that Krishna is like cutting us off, but we cut ourselves off by not wanting it. So therefore it's kept hidden. It's kept hidden from really materialistic people because they won't be attracted to it. In fact, they might even criticize it. You know, they might even blaspheme it. You know, so this about God. Like some people, if you mention, well, I can't even say the word God. Forget about Krishna. I can't even say the word God, which is not so specific, you know, in front of my father, and he gets upset, you know. So like that, to people like that, it's a secret. They'll never understand these things. It's very confidential. So even Krishna said to Arjuna, he said to Arjuna, I think in the 4th chapter, that I'm telling you this knowledge, Arjuna, because you are my devotee and you're my friend. Because you're my devotee and you're my friend, I'm telling you this knowledge. So because there's a respect there, there's a relationship that Arjuna has with Krishna. And so
Krishna has got only one devotee, Arjuna only. But he's got more devotees, but he tells that knowledge only to Arjuna.
Oh, he's got so many devotees.
But he only
But when he was present on the earth 5,000 years ago, I mean, I heard Prabhupada mention this in a lecture. There was only a handful, Prabhupada mentions a handful of people that knew that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. I mean, many people saw Krishna, but they, you know, like even when Krishna went to Mathura in the wrestling arena to kill Kamsa, just before he killed Kamsa, he walked into the wrestling arena and everyone was seeing him. But it's interesting, it's mentioned there how they all saw him in different ways according to their own desires and their own realization. Like it said, the woman that saw Krishna saw him as the most beautiful Cupid, as like the Cupid, the god of love, you know, means very beautiful. They saw him as very attractive, but it didn't say they saw him as God, you know. And it said that the wrestlers saw him as like a thunderbolt, hard as a thunderbolt. So they saw him as like super powerful, because that's their mood of a wrestler, is like fighting and everything like that. So Krishna reciprocates with whatever your desire is. If you are into fighting, he can appear as a great fighter. And if you're into, you know,
so it's pretty much like a mirror. Whatever inside you can see in Krishna the same.
Yeah. And remember, we read that verse, I think last week, 4th chapter, text 11, that as you surrender to me, I reward you accordingly. Yeah. So Krishna, God reciprocates with everyone according to their desires. And I'm reading a fascinating book at the moment by Sanatana Goswami called Brihat Bhagavatamrita. And I just read this verse yesterday, and I read it again today because it was just so good. That before you chant a mantra, you should have an intention, or like a particular desire or a goal that you have. What is your goal? What is your desire? What is your intention? And have that intention there before you chant. So that's your purpose, your goal of why you're chanting the mantra. So you have your desire, where you want to be, where you want to get to, and then you chant. So the mantra will fulfill that desire. That's the idea there. The mantra will fulfill that desire. Interestingly, Prabhupada also gave us that, and in Sanskrit it's called sankalpa. Sankalpa. So it's a particular, a frame of mind, a mentality. Sankalpa is to do with the mind. So in your mind, you have a sankalpa. Okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to go back home, back to Godhead, and I want to serve Krishna there eternally, whatever. So that's your sankalpa. And then you start chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada, he told us the meaning of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is, O Hare, energy of the Lord, O Krishna, which is the Lord, please engage us in your service. Please engage me in your service. So that's like a sankalpa that Prabhupada has given us. So it was amazing because in this book, there's this simple cowherd boy. He was born in Vrindavan, lucky soul, and but he was happy just herding cows there. He was, not very enlightened with knowledge and philosophy and that, but very fortunate, obviously very pious to be taking birth there. But he wasn't a great scholar or anything. And then he met this devotee who was just wandering around in ecstasy, chanting a mantra for Gopal, for Krishna. And this simple cowherd boy got attracted to him, and this became his guru. And the guru told the cowherd boy a mantra for Gopal. And he just started, he didn't really know why he's doing it and everything like that. And then he just starts chanting the mantra, and then he ends up going all over the place, traveling throughout India, chanting the mantra. And interestingly, this was happening, that he would have some desire in his mind, and then he would chant the mantra, and then it would just happen. Whatever he wanted, it would just happen. Like he heard some brahmanas talking about Swargaloka, about heaven. So that got it in his head that, wow, this heaven sounds like a really great place. I want to go to heaven. And then after thinking about how he wanted to go to heaven and check out Indra, and he heard that Indra worships one incarnation of the Lord there named Vamanadev. So Vamanadev is actually Indra's younger brother. So Vamanadev, this incarnation, he's the one that with 3 steps covered the whole universe. With Bali Maharaj, there's that whole pastime with Bali Maharaj. He took the whole universe away from Bali Maharaj, who was a great devotee, but he was the king of the demons. So Bali Maharaj kicked Indra out of heaven. So Vamanadev appeared from the same mother and father. It was Kashyapa Muni was the father, a great sage, and Aditi. Aditi is the mother of the demigods. So she's the mother of Indra. So then this Vamanadev appeared as a dwarf, Brahmana, as the younger brother of Indra. So he heard about how this cowherd boy named Gopakumar was his name. Gopakumar heard about how Indra is worshipping every day. Vamanadev is there, and Vamanadev is carried around on this, gigantic bird Garuda, and he's fighting demons and everything like that. So he got it in his head, wow, that'd be really cool to go to heaven. And then he started chanting his Gopal mantra, and then a plane came from heaven to pick him up. A plane came from here called a Vimana, like not an ordinary kind of earthly plane, but one that doesn't need gas and stuff to run it, and doesn't need any plastic and metal and all that stuff. And like Ram came back from Lanka to Ayodhya on a Puspa Viman. So Puspa Viman means made of flowers. The plane was made of flowers. And so yeah, this Gopa Kumar ended up being taken to heaven, and he was hanging out with Vamanadev and Indra and everything like that. And then he had a desire. I wish I could have that intimate relationship with Vamanadev and be able to worship Vamanadev like Indra does. So basically he had a desire to take Indra's position so that he could be more intimate and close with Vamanadev. So guess what happened? Indra got cursed soon after, because he abducted a beautiful wife of a sage. He has a tendency of being a bit lusty. So although he's still a glorious devotee, but we all have our weaknesses, right? So he got attracted to the sage's wife, and he like abducted her and tried to enjoy with her. And he was so afraid. He was so afraid of being cursed by the sages, which is very common. Don't peeve off a sage, you'll get cursed to become a frog in a well or something. So he was so afraid that he ended up disappearing. He just disappeared and was sitting inside a lotus. He was sitting inside a lotus flower in the Manasaganga or something like that, some holy river, lake. And so there was no Indra. So the Lord inspired the demigods there to make this Gopa Kumar, coward boy, Indra. So then he becomes Indra. So he was just a coward boy in Vrindavan. Then he actually, before that, and he went to Jagannath Puri, and he desired, I wish I could have that intimate relationship the king of Puri has with Jagannath, and go on the altar anytime he wants and just be with Jagannath. He ended up becoming the king of Puri, because after he had that desire, the king of Puri died. So be careful what you desire, and the king of Puri died. And then the king of Puri's son, he didn't want to be a king because he's a natural one to inherit it. But he didn't want to, because he thought that'll spoil my intimate relationship with Jagannath, because his son, the king's son, actually just like standing there in the audience, just looking, having a beautiful darshan of Jagannath. He didn't want to enter into politics and spoil the whole mood there he had with Jagannath. So then Jagannath inspired all of his servants there that there's a coward boy here that I want him to be the king. So they picked him out, and he became the king of Puri. And then after a while, he got bored of that, and eventually he ended up going to heaven. And I haven't read where he's going to go after that. He's going to go even somewhere else. But it's so powerful, actually, what you desire. And I know Deepa's really into this thing, the power of the mind and everything like that. But see, New Age philosophers, they miss out one very important step in their New Age philosophy. They think by the power of your mind, you can just create your own future, and whatever you desire strongly enough, it'll just manifest, it'll happen. And we agree with the mind, and we agree with, you can influence things happening, but they miss out one very important step. Do you know what the one very important step that New Age philosophers miss out?
It's all under the sanction of Krishna.
Yeah, it's called the Krishna factor.
Yeah.
They miss out, and that's the main factor. Or they just think it's just your mind.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that your mind is, you have a desire in your mind, and Krishna knows it. Krishna knows what you want. He knows what you desire. And if you're pious enough, if you've got enough, you could say, good credits in your material bank account, and in your karmic account, if you've got enough good credits there, then you may get what you want. Or in terms of a devotee, even if you do have the good credits, But if Krishna sees it's not good for your spiritual advancement, he might not give it to you. You know, so for a devotee, you have a desire. If it's good for your spiritual advancement, Krishna consciousness, Krishna can just fulfill it and you get it. And if it's not good, then he won't give it to you. And for a karmi, it's more impersonal. So if you've got the good karma, you'll get what you want. If you don't have the good karma, you won't get it like that. So that's one very important factor, and that's the main factor, is the God factor, the Krishna factor. It's not, well, my mind is so powerful, I can create my future with my mind. It's not so simple as that. Because it's like Bhakti Mala said, Krishna has to sanction it. You can desire day and night for something, and it's not going to necessarily happen. You could desire day and night something for the rest of your life. I'm going to become, the next Bill Gates. And you can desire that forever. But if you don't have the punya, if it's not good for your spiritual life, it's not going to happen, So, yeah, it's really fascinating, really fascinating. So, yeah, Krishna knows what's in our mind. And if he knows that you're envious of him, you're jealous of him, you don't believe in God or anything like that, then this knowledge will always be hidden from you. It'll always be hidden. It'll always be like a secret. So it's not that Krishna is wanting to hide the knowledge from us, but the real fact is that we're not eligible for this. Most people are not eligible, qualified to receive this knowledge because of their ignorance, their lust, their greed, their envy, their pride, and so forth, So therefore it's like hidden. Okay, Jayanti has something from... what do you call it?
Putting a spanner in the
Goswamini Jayanti.
No.
Yeah. He's sitting down.
No.
Simple living.
Simple thing. No, my question was, so I mean, generally ideally we shouldn't be desiring, but the desires are always there.
Material desires, but spiritual desires.
Material desires. I mean,
no,
material, of course, but spiritual desires are also there, and there are material desires also.
Yeah.
We might have, but the thing is, what I'm saying is, but generally it's said when you're chanting, you just chant, right? And
yeah.
Krishna takes care of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we ideally we don't focus on any desires or anything like that. But now,
but this, like I said, the sankalpa, the desire, you have that strong desire in your mind before you start chanting.
Yeah, no, I know. Before you start chanting, you have a desire. But the thing is, see, desires can be very dangerous because sometimes we don't know what we are desiring. Mm-hmm. What we are desiring may not be a good thing at all.
Yeah, correct. So like I said, with a devotee, Krishna won't give it to you if it's not good for you.
I don't
know. Well, I also heard that many people told me that Krishna might give it to you, but he knows that it's wrong for you and that it's going to bring you closer towards him. When it doesn't.
But like I say, the ultimate thing is that it's bringing you closer to him. So he might also see that you need a bit of a kick, so, and he'll make arrangements for that, he'll make a bit of arrangement. And it might seem that you make one step backwards, but from that one step backwards, you make 3 steps forward. Well, I remember when my first marriage fell apart, it seemed like I went 10 steps backward. But and I thought all my children would be kind of come like Prahlad Maharaj and things like that. So so that was that desire definitely didn't manifest. So, and I thought I was going to live happily ever after because we're all devotees, right? And we're all going to get on together and just serve Krishna together. But it didn't work out like that, and I thought I went 10 steps backwards. But then I ended up, when that fell apart, because I had actually been drifting away from all the service I used to do, and I was just working full time and everything like that just to make money to support everything. So I was drifting away, not having much association and stuff. And then I ended up going straight back into the temple, and straight back to the temple and getting back into all the services again. I was arranging harinams and doing so many things, and then I ended up going to another temple and doing daily harinams and book distribution, and I helped that center to improve a bit. It was in Wellington, and then I ended up finding my most precious beloved wife, who's a lot better than the first one. And she's still a bit grumpy and grizzly and stuff, but yeah, she's a lot more supportive to Christian consciousness and things like that. She's helped, a lot to fulfill our dreams, to practice simple living, high thinking, help get this place like that. And so yeah, sometimes it might seem that that really bad thing happened to me. Why did Krishna allow that to happen? Because I'm trying to be a devotee, but Krishna has some long-term plan to bring us more closely to Krishna consciousness. So I'm not saying that there'll never be anything bad happen in a devotee's life because Krishna's going to stop it or whatever. No, but Krishna will just help us to advance more and more, and sometimes we need a bit of a slap around to advance more and more too. So it's not only good things will always happen, but where the devotee knows that we're in Krishna's hands, in Krishna's shelter. So even though it seems like we're going through a difficult period, but still we're under Krishna's shelter, and this difficult period is just designed in some way to help us become better. Sometimes help us become better. It's purifying, when we go through some difficulties. And what's the idea when we're in a difficulty? What does a devotee do to react? How does a devotee react to or respond to some difficulties, some traumas, some challenging situation?
They generally think that I deserved worse.
Okay, Jayanti said that the devotee thinks that I deserve worse, but Krishna is minimizing it. Yep, they think like that. But if you look in Krishna book, like when some demons attacking Vrindavan in Krishna's Leela, what did the devotees do? That's obviously a very difficult situation. And if you don't think it was that difficult, let me just tell you one thing. Like, for example, I think it was when the horse demon was huge. I mean, like it said that the tail of the horse was in the clouds. So that gives you an idea about how big this was. And that name of that demon was called Keshi. So that was the Keshi demon. When that demon came in, it said some of the women that were pregnant at that time, the gopis that were pregnant at that time, married women there, they had miscarriages. Can you just think about how traumatic it must have been in Vrindavan at that time? This gigantic, horrifying creature, demon, came in, and just it created like a whirlwind, like storm from its hooves, like hitting the ground, and that it was just massive. So women were just having a spontaneous miscarriage. I mean, it's traumatic. So, but how do devotees respond when there's a difficulty?
I personally try and take shelter of other devotees.
Yeah, no, that's very good. No, but I'm talking about from in the Krishna book itself. Can you remember reading those pastimes?
I remember. No.
They just call out to Krishna. They call out to Krishna. So that's the idea, that when you're having a hard time, a difficult time, which is just the way of the material world, then you just call out to Krishna. Whether it's loudly, Hare Krishna, or internally in your heart, you just, Krishna help me, Krishna save me, like that. And then miracles happen. Like there was a forest fire twice in Krishna book. There's 2 forest fires mentioned. And that's another thing. I mean, how traumatic that would be, is surrounded by fire at night in the forest. and completely surrounded. There's no escape, and it's just getting closer and closer. What did they all do? You know, hands up, surrender. Hare Krishna, Krishna, save us. And what happened?
Fire disappear.
He sucked the fire into his mouth.
How did this feel though? Yeah, he just breathed in. He inhaled it.
Yeah.
He just inhaled the fire, and then they were just back into shanti, you know, all peaceful and that. So the problem is we think it's all mythology, you know, we think it's all just some fairy tales, mythology, superstition, or whatever, and then we don't take it up in our lives. But we should do that ourselves, you know. In the same way, call out to Krishna by loudly chanting Hare Krishna, and really, you know, like Prabhupada said, you should chant Hare Krishna like the child calls out for a mother. Child calls out for a mother. Or we're internally, you know, just praying to Krishna to please save us, please help us, and please guide us, and like give us the strength to overcome these problems and so forth like that. So if we don't think these pastimes are real, then we're not going to, you know, take it so seriously, and, you know, having faith to do that ourselves. But that's actually what we should do. We should do exactly what they did, like that. Why did Krishna come to the world? You know, to show us, you know, how to deal with all the problems of the material world. Like that. So that's why he came with all of his devotees, to teach by example, you know, how to deal with these things. And Krishna's showing us it's just the nature of the material world that's a difficult place. Otherwise, why? I mean, there was no place that had so many difficulties as Vrindavan. It was like every day there was demons coming every day to Vrindavan. We think, oh, I'm a devotee now, it's all going to be peaceful and nice and everything. Not necessarily. Even Krishna himself had a difficult time, you know, not really difficult, but still, I mean, there was, you know, his mother and father were imprisoned. I mean, that's a pretty hard time, isn't it? Your mum and dad are in a prison. You know, you're on the run from all these hired assassins of Kamsa were trying to assassinate you. You know, I'll tell you what, you know, when Kamsa had realized that the person that was going to kill him had appeared, but he had escaped from the prison, and he didn't exactly know where he was, and with the bad advice of all of his advisors, what was the solution he came up with? I know what we'll do. We'll just kill all the children that have taken birth in the last month or so in the whole area. So that was their plan. That's why Putana went out to kill all the babies. So Putana went out to kill all the babies by poisoning them. And unfortunately, she ran into Krishna and got killed herself. But that was what they were doing. Can you imagine how traumatic it would be? I mean, we don't have it that bad, do we? Some nutcase going around sent out by the government to kill all the babies. You know, so it was pretty bad. You know, pretty bad. But then you they take shelter of Krishna. That's the idea. So that's just the nature of the material world. It's a tough place. You know, if you don't want to live in a tough place, then what should you do?
Have a sankalpa to go back to Godhead.
Have a sankalpa to go back to Godhead. If you want to live somewhere where it's not tough going, then the only option is back to Godhead, the spiritual world. You know, one time see, even this phone is giving me a tough time. So one time Prabhupada arrived at the airport in LA, I think it was, and one of his baggages got lost or delayed. So one of the devotees had to stay behind at the airport to find Prabhupada's missing luggage. And that happened to be Indradyumna, not Swami at the time, but just Indradyumna Das. And he spent the whole day trying to track down Prabhupada's missing piece of luggage. And then it was a heavy luggage. It was really heavy luggage. And Prabhupada had a lot of stuff there and that, maybe books and stuff like that. And then Prabhupada, I've been in his rooms in LA. They're up some stairs, and it's mentioned in the past time that the luggage was so heavy, he had to go up the stairs backwards, pulling the luggage. He had to walk backwards up the stairs, pulling the luggage, and then he had to open the door, but he couldn't let go of the luggage because otherwise it would have fallen back down the stairs. So with his back to the door, hold one hand on the luggage, one hand on the door handle, and then he had his hand on the door, and suddenly the door came open and it went the other way, and he fell into the room backwards. He fell into the room backwards, and when he was on the floor, like, and it was just miserable, you know. The whole day was just a miserable day, and
because he wanted to be with Prabhupada.
And he wanted to be with Prabhupada. That made it even worse, you know.
Yeah.
He missed out on Prabhupada right
and
the class and the puja and everything. And the prasad, he wouldn't have had any prasad. He wouldn't have been hungry like that. So, and then with his eyes on the floor, when he was on the floor, he could just see Prabhupada's shoes. That's all he could see was Prabhupada's shoes, and it was right next to his face. I think Prabhupada must have opened the door and he fell in. And then he said, in this world, there are so many difficulties. But when you go back to Godhead, it will be easy. Something like that. Not exactly what he said, but basically that was what it was. That, yeah, there's so many difficulties in this world, but when you go back to Godhead, it will become easy. So we should have that sankalpa, that desire. Yeah, let's go back to Godhead. I mean, it's recommended that we, you know, devotees get free from desires, and it's actually mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in many places. This word karman. Karman means desires. But when it's saying give up your desires, well, let's just read one of them. The last verse of the second chapter, text 72. Second chapter, text 72.
You must be feeling very unwell, Gulshan, because you haven't said anything the whole time.
Yeah, I can't even open my eyes there. That's why I said to Gail, it's not very good that she left. And
that's no good.
Never heard you be so quiet.
Yeah.
I can't open my eyes. I better go and have some rest because I got to go in the evening to Bhakti Tree again. I can.
Oh, okay. I will try to keep it short then.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You can continue that. It's okay. I'll listen that later. Because I can't open my eyes. I can't read anything. Unfortunately.
Are you taking ginger tea or something to help remedy it?
Yeah, I'm taking that honey and lemon tea. But doctor says it'll take time. So drink a lot of waters and all that. I said, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't go to Janmashtami to my temple as well. I just stayed home for the last couple of days and not doing anything.
Oh, you've had it for a couple of days. Okay.
Yeah. Brett said no one there to Bhakti Tree, so I'm going to have a half an hour rest and go to Bhakti Tree again.
Wow.
So,
one Ayurvedic doctor, he told us that actually taking lemon is not very good when you have a flu. It can increase the mucus because it's sour. Better is ginger. Better to take the ginger rather than the lemon. Yeah, don't have too much lemon, or it might make the mucus worse. But one thing that's very good is in your mouth, before you go to sleep, put 1 clove and 1 black pepper. 1 clove, 1 black pepper in your mouth, and you just keep it in your mouth. You just suck on it while you're sleeping. It'll just be sitting in your mouth, and that's really good.
Okay, I'll try it.
1 clove, lavang, and black pepper, whole black pepper. That's no good. Yeah, but that's the best remedy, is just take more rest. Have more rest. And just eat very simply.
Get Mahasevak to make you some tea.
Yeah, I'll just go in the evening to see me with some.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like some. It'll take time, like 2-3 days. It just happens.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Bhakti Miller, do you want to read that verse?
Is it?
Oh, it's actually not 72, it's 71. Text before.
A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace.
Yes, so it says give up desires, but it qualifies it. You've got to give up all desires for sense gratification. But that doesn't mean you give up all desires related to Krishna and Krishna's service. No, that you should have. So yeah, you have desires. I want to serve Krishna in the spiritual world, in my spiritual form, without any, because here, I mean, it's difficult to serve Krishna here, isn't it? Because like your body gets sick and you can't do your service, and so the body gets older. We had an elderly devotee came here yesterday, and we were just talking about, it's getting harder. As we get older, it's getting harder to do the things that we want to do. So there's a lot of obstacles in this world for us to serve Krishna. But when we go back to the spiritual world, there won't be any obstacles. There's no old age, there's no disease, there's no death, there's no birth. And you have complete freedom to serve Krishna whatever way you want. That's unlimited. It's unlimited. And we made a nice feast. We made a nice feast for Prabhupada yesterday. But because we have a material body, we can't really enjoy much of it because, how much can you eat? We can't eat very much. But in the spiritual world, you can eat unlimitedly. Prasadam. Okay, so let's go back to our verse today. Beginning of the 9th chapter. Okay, we can read the Sanskrit. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Idam tu te guyatamam.
Idam tu te
guyatamam.
Pravakshyam yanasuyave. Yanam vigyanam sahitam.
Vijnanam sahitam.
Yajgatva mokshashe shubhat.
Yajgatva mokshashe shubhat.
Okay, Bhakti Mala, you're the reader tonight because Gulshan's out of action.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence."
So can you see why this knowledge is confidential? Can you see some indication in this verse why? What is it that's stopping everyone from getting access to this knowledge?
Because he's not envious.
Yeah, so that's a big obstacle that stops people getting this knowledge, because they're envious of Krishna. They want to be Krishna, and because Krishna has the position that they want, then they're envious of him. And so that's why it's confidential. It's not that Krishna doesn't want all of his children to know about him, but it's that a lot of Krishna's children are envious of him, so therefore he hides himself. He hides himself from the envious people. And that's good for them. that's good for them, that he remains hidden from them, because if they become conscious of Krishna, like I said, they'll normally criticize Krishna and blaspheme Krishna, and that's bad for them. And I realized that, like with my parents, if I say anything about God to them, they'll blaspheme Krishna, you know, and the Hare Krishna movement and everything, which is bad for them. So it's actually taking them 2 steps backwards. So better I don't say anything about it. So you could see, like, from their point of view, this knowledge is very confidential. It's not being told to them. And it's not that we're not telling them about it because we don't care about them, we don't want them to know the knowledge, but they're just not ready to accept it because of that envy there. That's like a big blockage, you know, to that people can't take the knowledge like that, and in that way it's very confidential. It's very confidential.
That's one of the things against the holy name, isn't it? What's that one? I'm so bad, I should know them all.
To preach the glories of the holy name to the faithless.
Yeah.
To those that don't have any faith, because they'll just criticize and blaspheme. You know? I'll say, oh, that's just fairy stories, that's just mythology, that's just superstition. Or they'll get angry, you know, there is no God, I hate God, or blah, blah, blah. You know, so it's better. So for those people, it's better that they don't hear this knowledge, you know, in that way it's very confidential. So something that's confidential, then you've got to have some qualifications. So then what is the qualifications for getting this spiritual knowledge? It's like mentioned here, because you are never envious of me. So that's a big qualification. So a devotee is supposed to be not envious. If a devotee is envious, then that's problematic. And but sometimes we even see that in the society of devotees. Some devotees get envious of maybe other devotees like that. And why are we envious of other devotees or any living creature? Is because of that original envy of Krishna. So that's the principle of Krishna consciousness, is that I have this original, the soul has this original envy of Krishna, and that's why we're here in the material world in the first place, because we turned away from Krishna, wanting to enjoy without Krishna. So because of that original desire to enjoy without Krishna and being envious of Krishna, that's why we're in the material world. And then because of that original envy in our relationship with God, that expands into our relationships with everyone else. So in society, you know, we become envious of each other or jealous and everything like that, and try to take other people's possessions or positions or whatever like that. So the principle of Krishna consciousness is, if we can remove the original envy that we have in our relationship with God, then the envy will disappear in all of our other relationships. Just at that one stroke. If you fix up one relationship, the relationship that the soul has with God, then all the other relationships automatically get fixed up.
What about spiritual envy? Because I know, like, for me, I'm not going to mention any names, but like if I've been doing services before, and people like, I want that service that you're doing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, and in the end, I just give it to them because they want it so badly, you know. So I've seen a lot of spiritual envy. You know, that's different, isn't it?
Jealousy and envy. Envy indicates that you. Well, let's start with jealousy. Jealousy is that you want what someone else has, okay?
Yeah.
But envy is you want what someone else has, and because they have what you want to pull them down. So that pulling down, that's an extra thing that envy has that jealousy doesn't have.
Oh, okay.
Jealousy is just you want what someone else has, or their service they have, or position they have. But envy is that, okay, you want what they have and you want to pull them down like that. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, I would say maybe there was some jealousy there, but probably not envy. So they want to get rid of you or anything.
No, they just want your service.
Yeah, well, that's natural, that there is some competition, but that's another thing, so there's spiritual competition. You want to, you want to do the best service, or as good as someone else or better than someone else. You want to dress the deities better than others, or you want to cook the feast better than others, or whatever. So there's some competition there to render the best service like that. So,
but then there's a place where Prabhupada says, right, that to be envious is not, it means to not like someone.
yeah, so that's indicating the same thing.
But there are times when I don't like people, but I'm not envious of them. I mean, they can be so annoying, so I don't like them. But it's not that I'm envious, or I want to bring them down, or I want what they have. They may not have what I want or something anyway.
It's I mean, there's case by case different scenarios.
Okay, I'll go to have a bit of rest in there. I'll
take some rest. Really sorry to hear you're not well.
No,
you take care of your health.
You continue.
Hope you feel better, Gushan.
I can't open my eyes there.
That's no good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I mean, often also what can be behind, we don't like someone is it's actually mentioned. I've heard it mentioned. It can be that, I don't like someone as an indirect appreciation of that person, because there may be something they have that you don't have, and then because of that you become, you don't like them. You don't like them because they're better than us in some way. Sometimes that can be there. So that in one sense can be like an indirect appreciation of a person too, that you don't like someone because they have some better facilities or better abilities or things like that too. So it can be that as well.
It can be, but there can also be cases where somebody is so obnoxious, their behavior is like so, and so you don't really like them just because they're just annoying you so much.
You're hearing that?
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
She says she's not talking about me. I thought she was talking about me. But so how do we overcome that in Krishna consciousness? All these, what we're perceiving as obnoxious or whatever, these are just different modes of nature, modes of ignorance, mode of passion. But is that what we are? Is the living person just a mode of material nature? Are we just a lump of ignorance and passion? No, actually we're a pure spirit soul. Pure spirit soul. So Krishna consciousness means we have to see that. That means deep down underneath that ignorance and passion that we're exhibiting some bad qualities, deep down underneath that, there's a pure soul there. So the Krishna conscious person learns to see that pure soul. And I mean, we also see, well, okay, they're, they talk roughly and they look rough and they, have bad manners or whatever like that, and smelly or whatever their problems are. But that's just superficial. That's the superficial covering, that's the external covering. But we have to learn to see in Krishna consciousness that there's part and parcel of Krishna inside that, a very dear part and parcel of Krishna, that there's an eternal soul, just like within us, there's an eternal soul, same everywhere. And that way we can overcome these feelings of not liking or hating or like that. But what we can do, like if we can't relate to other people because they're in a different mode than us, say if we're trying to be more in the mode of goodness and someone else is in ignorance and passion, and it doesn't really, we don't really click very well with them because they're, you know, in different modes, then we can just avoid them. We can just avoid them. But you don't have to hate them. Don't have to hate them. It's saying that Yudhisthira Maharaj, Arjuna's older brother, the Pandavas, he was glorified as Ajata Shatru. Ajata Shatru. Ajata means not born and Shatru means enemy. So his enemy was never born. So does that mean that Yudhisthira Maharaj didn't have any enemies? He had heaps of enemies. Like Duryodhana was always trying to get rid of the Pandavas. And the blind father of Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, he was always trying to get rid of the Pandavas. They were always trying to kill them in so many ways. You know, Jarasandha was trying to kill them and everything like that. So they had so many enemies. But that means there's a lot of people that were seeing Yudhisthira as an enemy. But how many people did Yudhisthira see as an enemy?
Nobody.
Nobody, zero. He didn't see anyone as an enemy. They were seeing Yudhisthira as their enemy, but he wasn't seeing them as an enemy. And that's because he was Krishna conscious. He was seeing that, you know, everyone is a spirit soul, you know, and everyone is dear to Krishna. And, you know, and if I'm going through some these people are giving me hard times, that's due to my karma or whatever like that. That's Krishna's mercy, you know. So he saw it in a very transcendental way. And we see that, you know, devotees often also go through hardships like anyone else. But it's just how we respond to the hardships that's different. It doesn't mean there won't be any hardships, but it's how we respond to them. That's the difference. Now you look at Prahlad Maharaj, heaps of hardships from a young age, you know. Dhruva Maharaj, heaps of hardships from a young age. He got kicked off his father's lap when he was just a 5-year-old kid because his one of his stepbrothers mother was more closer to the king than his mother, so there was some rivalry there. Once again, you know, jealousy and so forth within the family. So yeah, he got tossed off his father's lap, which was quite traumatic for a 5-year-old, you know, like that. And you know, so lots of traumas. We see Prabhupada's life, you know, lots of traumas. He had so many. I was hearing him talk about the difficulties he had in business. People cheated him and people owed him money for the pharmaceutical medicine and they didn't pay him. He had a lot of debts. In business, he had a lot of debts. And he was such a nice devotee, right? That you don't like fighting with people to get money off them. So he just let it go. But people took advantage of his nice nature and he ended up getting lots of debts there. And then people were cheating and, you know, doing all kind of things, and the business got spoiled. And then his wife became a bit antagonistic and everything like that. Tea or me? And she said tea. And, you know, all these things and, you know, so many difficulties. And Prabhupada was an old man, you know, in India, in Vrindavan, all by himself, you know, very old age, all by himself, no support, no help, nothing. And he would sometimes he got so down, he even wondered whether he did the right thing to take sannyas. You know, he was wondering whether he did the right thing. So many difficulties, must have been very hard, and but because he had faith in Krishna and faith in his spiritual master and faith in the holy name, carried him through all those things, and eventually his life became so glorious, so glorious. But it's these hardships, and that is often what makes us so strong in our Krishna consciousness, and develop our faith and our determination and all these things is often through these difficulties. And the example Prabhupada gives is just like a beautiful diamond, right? But does it start off a beautiful diamond? You know where a diamond comes from?
Coal.
It actually starts from coal, just dirty black coal. But under the ground, when the coal is put under incredible pressure, apparently under heaps of pressure over a long period of time, put on a lot of pressure, gradually that coal turns into a diamond. I heard recently they found the second biggest diamond in the world or something somewhere. In some country, I can't remember where. But yeah, so it's like that, that sometimes we also get put under some pressure, but it actually can make us become more beautiful and blossom in Krishna consciousness. Because in that difficulty, the devotee, takes shelter of Krishna more and calls out to Krishna more. More hearing, more chanting, more remembering. And that's what purifies our heart and makes us, ultimately brings us towards being more happy and more ecstatic, more blissful, is when we take shelter of Krishna. And obviously it's these, difficult situations that force us to call out to Krishna. It's like when we're all happy and everything's good, people don't normally remember God. But like if you're in a plane and the engine cuts out, then everyone prays to God. Or there's a saying, and there's no atheists in a foxhole. So foxhole is what the soldiers dig in the wartime to stop them getting blown up by bullets and so forth. They dig a hole like that. That's called a foxhole. So there's a saying, there's no atheists in a foxhole. It means in the wartime, it doesn't matter what you were before, an atheist or whatever, but in the wartime, everyone prays to God. Everyone prays to God. Because it's such a difficult situation, then it forces us to pray to God. And then that's a blessing. That's a blessing. So this is where we've got to start on improving ourselves, is by improving our relationship with Krishna. So like I said with envy, that if we can get free from envy of Krishna, then we won't be envious of anyone else. So that's where we have to start from, our relationship with Krishna. And if we can become Krishna conscious, then naturally, it said, all the good qualities will come. All good qualities will come. So it said all the good qualities of the demigods develop in a devotee of the Lord. But yeah, this is a big obstacle, envy, and that's 100%, pretty much 100% of the souls that come to the world come with envy. That's why we've come here. So yeah, we expect it. We should expect it, that there will be envy between living entities and jealousy and so forth. But in the society of devotees, we should try to come out of that, and the only way to come out of that is by Krishna consciousness, and then we'll learn to love Krishna, and then love everyone else, and not hate anyone. Even Jesus said, should hate the sin and not the sinner. Hate the sin and not the sinner. So he's also distinguishing between the person and their behavior. So sin is the bad behavior, right? That's sin, bad behavior. And then the sinner is the person that is performing the bad behavior. But what Jesus is saying, to hate, it's a strong word, to hate the bad behavior, the sin, but not hate the person that's performing the bad behavior. So normally we just see it as one thing, the person and the behavior. But actually it's two separate things. Like there is a pure soul that doesn't have any of these bad qualities. There's a pure soul deep down inside, and all these external bad behaviors are just due to our contact with the material world. It's just due to our association with the material world, because we're associating with Maya. And Krishna consciousness is the process to remove us from Maya's association and put us in Krishna's association. So we're changing it. We've been associating only with Maya for millions of lifetimes, with lust, with greed, with anger, with envy, with pride. And now we're learning from our spiritual master to not associate with Maya anymore and just associate with Krishna. Did Gulshan give you his bug through the internet?
No, I started coughing.
Now she actually got a bug in Australia when she went over there. I got to be careful when I go over there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad bugs in Australia.
There is, and there's still a lot of COVID as well.
Okay.
Around. Yeah.
I'll have to put my extra powerful Krishna shield on.
Yeah.
My Krishna armor. Krishna armor. Yeah. So even like in a Krishna conscious society, we should be consciously trying to get free from all these bad habits. But even Prabhupada told that his own god brothers were many of them were so envious of him, and hardly, you might have read that, in the Lilamrita, if you've read any. Have you read any of the Lilamrita? Prabhupada's
I've read it. Yeah.
Oh, you've read it, yeah. So many of his god brothers, not only did they not want to help him, but they tried to pull him down, and that's the envy part. They tried to pull him down, They even tried to, philosophically poison some of his disciples against him and telling all wrong things to them when they met them and his disciples in India and like that. And, so many difficulties like that. But, a devotee shouldn't be surprised, because we know that's the environment that we're living in. The material world is full of envy. Only in the association of pure devotees is there no envy with pure devotees. But not every devotee is a pure devotee, so we still, that's why we say kanista adhikaris, or neophyte devotees still may have, some of these bad qualities. But the difference is, at least they're trying to become clean in their heart. If they're, sincerely chanting Hare Krishna, then gradually these things should go away, like that. So we should just encourage everyone to be Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness is the only hope that we have to get free from the envy. Otherwise, and all these other bad qualities, lust and greed and so forth. That's the only chance. The way that it works is that the holy name of Krishna is Krishna. These words of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, they are Krishna, non-different from Krishna. Krishna's prasadam, his food remnants, is Krishna. The deity of Krishna is Krishna. Krishna's devotees are also, an expansion and manifestation of Krishna. So if we're associating with Krishna's name, Krishna's words, Krishna's prasadam, Krishna's deity, Krishna's devotees, then that will gradually clean out our hearts, because we're associating with Krishna. So then Krishna in our heart will gradually clean our hearts of the envy and the lust and the greed and so forth. So that's the idea, how it works. By following, if we follow the process, which is basically we associate with Krishna as much as possible, always talking about Krishna, thinking about Krishna, remembering Krishna, working for Krishna, you know, doing so many services for Krishna, then all that association with Krishna is going to clean us. Because obviously Krishna is the most clean. He's pavitra. He's the purest person. So if we keep associating with the most pure person, Krishna, then gradually we'll become pure. And the idea is that when we become pure, then the envy will not be there anymore. All these things will go away. So we just encourage everyone to become a devotee. We encourage everyone to become a devotee and to chant and things like that. And however, we have to be very careful as a devotee also. It's not all problems over just when you walk in the door of Krishna consciousness, because like I said, you know, Krishna sees what is your sankalpa, what is your desire. So if you're chanting and you have some foolish desire, then maybe, you know, we have to go through some hardships. And I mean, I've seen some devotees are very greedy for power and position. These are very difficult ones to give up. Actually, it's easier to give up illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. It's easier to give up those four gross sinful activities than to give up the subtle ones. There's actually subtle sense gratification. There's those four kinds of gross sense gratification, but there's subtle sense gratification. What's that? That's in the mind. What's in the mind? Like, we want power, we want position, we want fame, we want people to worship us like that. So these kind of things, they're very subtle weeds in the heart, anarthas they're called. And the problem with that is, if you have that desire that you want to be the big boss of all the devotees and everything like that, and then you chant, Krishna may give that to you, but then you miss out on the real thing. You might get that big position and become the you know, temple president, GBC, or whatever like that, acharya, what a guru, or whatever like that. You might get that, what you wanted, but then you miss out on the real thing. What's the real thing?
Love of God.
Yeah, love of God. That's the real thing. But somewhere we miss that one. You know, we develop other desires. So that's what's recommended. And Rupa Goswami says that in the Nectar of Devotion. It said the essence of the Nectar of Devotion is one verse that goes, Anyabhilasita shunyam jnana kama navratam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. And that's a definition of pure devotional service. And what does it say that pure devotional service is when we make all other desires zero. Shunya means zero. All other desires. What are other desires? Karma, that means desires for sense gratification. Like I said, this, you know, position and power and all these kind of things, and, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. Going to heaven and enjoying and like that. And then jnana means mental speculation. So we have to make all these desires zero for mental speculation, material desires, and mystic powers and all these kind of things. And only desire to please Krishna favorably, you know, to cultivate those desires for the pleasure of Krishna, to make Krishna happy. And that's the definition of pure devotional service. To desire to please Krishna and make him happy, and not have our own, material desires to enjoy without Krishna and be speculating in so many ways. So, and that's why we need to seek association with devotees that are more pure as much as possible, and we can respect everyone. So even devotees that have material desires and so forth, envy or whatever, but just not associate too closely. Not associate too closely with those that may be manifesting these external bad behaviors, and just and we might say, well, there may not be too many pure devotees around us. Like where we live, there's forget about pure devotees, there's no devotees at all, around us close by. There's only one, maybe one, we could say. And then, but then we have Prabhupada's books, and we're so lucky because
I'm coming back.
She's gone off to do something for a second. Let's see.
Sorry.
That's okay. No problem.
Right. I was getting a drink.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So like I was saying, even though we don't have, maybe all of us have access to pure devotees every day we can connect with, but in another sense we do, because Prabhupada has left us his beautiful books, which is all the best association. Of course, obviously he's the author, it's his association, and he's the most pure devotee, but also all the personalities that have been talked about in the books. There's, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita here, there's Krishna's association we're getting, and Arjuna's association. And the Bhagavatam, there's Prahlad's association, Shiva, Brahma, Narada Muni, so much. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaitacharya, all the devotees there. There's just, and Rupa Goswami. I'm reading now, I'm associating now with Sanatana Goswami. I'm just feeling so uplifted by Sanatana Goswami. It's amazing. He's telling all about Lord Jagannath, and and now we're going to heaven, and then soon we're off to Vaikuntha. So he's taking me to heaven, to Vaikuntha. You just get absorbed.
Yeah.
Get absorbed in this. So, and that's the real life of Krishna consciousness, that you want to get absorbed in hearing and chanting about Krishna. And there's nothing and nobody that can take that away from us. Even if there was World War III happens tonight, and you can't even go outside and go anywhere or whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter, because we can just keep on hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. That's all we need. I mean, even in the early days of the movement, Prabhupada instructed devotees, like in Australia, to go out and chant Hare Krishna on the streets. So they carried out the order of their spiritual master, which is all very good. But then the local authorities didn't agree with that. They didn't like to see chanting Hare Krishna on the streets, so they threw them in jail. So all the early Prabhupada disciples, like Kurma, for example, Kurma, the cook, he got thrown in jail, he lost count of how many times he was in jail. 10, 20, 30 times, whatever. They would go to jail, and then they refused to eat the jail food, so they fasted, and the jail keepers thought these crazy Hare Krishnas are going to starve to death, and it's going to be bad publicity, so let them out. And they let them out. What do? They chanted Hare Krishna again. And then they got thrown in jail again, and they fasted again. But in the jail, it said that they did all their regular services that they did in the temple when they were free. They couldn't do that anymore externally. but they did it all in their mind. So back to Sankalpa again. And all in their mind, they did a whole Sunday feast in their mind, and someone was cooking, someone was leading the kirtan, someone was decorating the temple, someone was welcoming the guests, and everything in their mind. They just all say there's 10 of them in the jail, because the whole chanting party would just get thrown in jail, and they just have a whole temple program in their mind. So ultimately you don't really need anything external. You can do everything just yourself, like that, if necessary, like that. So, and that way you've got the best association. And then of course we will meet, all kinds of people. Some people are not devotees at all. Some people are devotees and they have material desires, and some devotees are pure devotees. But then we can always get pure devotees, just by this reading and of Prabhupada's books and hearing other people telling about Prabhupada's books and things like that, where this is the, greatest treasure that Prabhupada has left us, is these books. And it said, Prabhupada said, these will be the law books for humankind for the next 10,000 years. For the next 10,000. So this is our lifeline back to the spiritual world, where we have the best association. We're so fortunate. So fortunate. And then if we can develop this mood of being a devotee, that means that we want to love Krishna. We're not happy anymore being envious of Krishna and trying to be a competitor, enjoy without Krishna. We recognize that we've tried that, didn't work. It didn't make me happy trying to enjoy without Krishna. Now we want to enjoy with Krishna again. So as soon as we have that desire and we give up that envy, then Krishna will bless us with this knowledge. So that's what this verse is saying. When we give up the envy, then he says, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved from the miseries of material existence. So this is the process, how it works. First of all, you have to give up envy of Krishna. If you don't want to serve Krishna, forget it. You're not going to get any real knowledge. But if you can just get free from this envy and accept that I am a servant of Krishna. I'm not God. I'm a servant of God. If we can just in our heart accept that and be happy with that I'm happy to be a servant of God. I don't want to be God. I just want to be a servant of God. And as soon as you accept that in your heart, that I want to serve you, I'm happy to serve you, then Krishna will just enlighten us from outside in the form of the Guru and the scriptures, and from inside as the super soul. And the super soul will give us good knowledge too, enlighten us from inside our hearts. So that's how it works step by step. First of all, for those people that with their free choice, because that's free choice, you don't have to give up the envy if you don't want to. If you want to stay envious, you can, but you'll never get out of the material world. You're always going to be kept in ignorance and passion. So step one, use your free choice to give up the envy, and then Krishna will enlighten us with knowledge of himself and how to advance in Krishna consciousness. And then what's the result of that knowledge? Then you become happy. That's what it says. Relieved from the miseries of material existence means that the devotee becomes happy. Even while we're still in the material world, then, like I said, the miseries still go on, but the devotee's not conscious of them so much, because the devotee is always absorbed in Krishna.
Because I think that's interesting that he's got these two things together, because I think they are quite separate when he says, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization. Because I think, you can have so much knowledge, but it's not always like realized knowledge, or like you're not actually living it,
Yeah, that's a good point. Because the knowledge means that's theoretical knowledge, knowledge is theoretical, but the realization, that means the application and experience.
I think that's the harder part to have the knowledge, but to also be living that knowledge.
Yeah. But I would say,
I don't know if that's got to do with faith as well, like having strong enough faith in the knowledge that you know it and you live it. I don't know if that's got to do with faith or not.
It does, no, definitely. Definitely, faith has a big, and the faith develops the more knowledge we get. That's the idea, that the more knowledge we have, then the faith gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And also, the more experiences you get. If you have very positive Krishna conscious experiences, that multiplies your faith a lot. But what Krishna's saying here, that he gives not only the knowledge, the theory, but he gives, this is a different angle than what you're looking at. You're looking at realization, meaning you practice it and then you'll experience it, right, when you practice it.
Yeah.
But Krishna's saying here, he gives you the realization. So this is actually looking at it from a different perspective. It's nothing you're doing, but it's something that's coming from Krishna.
Okay.
So what does that mean then? That Krishna is giving you the experience.
Well, it's somewhat out of our control if the realization comes from him, not from our efforts, I guess. I don't know.
Why would Krishna give you some higher realization experience? What must have happened before? If someone's going to give you something, it means they're what? If someone what did you say?
They have it.
Well, they have it, obviously. But why would someone just out of the blue just give you something? Does that just happen randomly, by chance, that someone just comes and, here, Bhakti Mala, I just want to give you this gift?
No.
That people just do it because they're just brain dead zombie, and they just happen to give it to you by chance? I guess. Or do you think there was a cause? Was there a cause?
What we're talking about before, about surrender, when you surrender, I reward them accordingly. Is that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or pleasing him is.
In terms of like an ordinary person, because you don't surrender. Person. But you please them, so if you've done something to please someone, then they may reciprocate by giving you something. But you did something for them, so they're going to do something for you. So like that. So we've been turning away from Krishna for millions of lifetimes, and he loves us, and we've turned our back to him. And finally you turn towards him again. I want to serve you, Krishna. And Krishna's pleased by your turning around and giving up your envy and wanting to serve him, and said, here, I'll give you an experience of myself. And that actually happens, that literally the devotee can get an experience of Krishna, like see Krishna, like literally. Like Krishna reveals himself to the devotee, being pleased by their service. So not only Krishna's giving knowledge, but he's also giving a vision of himself, an experience of himself. Means that directly the devotee can experience Krishna. And that's going to come in the next verse, which we won't go into now. But it says, in the next verse, we can just read it in the translation. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting. It is joyfully performed. So yeah, direct perception of the self by realization. So yeah, Krishna can give us a direct perception of the spiritual world. You know, like one day Krishna took the cowherd boys to the river Yamuna, and they went in to take a bath all together. And then when they took the bath, all of them saw the whole Vaikuntha. They saw the whole spiritual world. So Krishna just gave them that realization of the spiritual world. And what would that have done to their faith? It's not just you've heard about the spiritual world, you read about the spiritual world, but you've actually seen the spiritual world. So their faith will grow so much. When Akrura was taking Krishna Balaram away from Vrindavan to Mathura, Akrura also went for a bath. And when he went for a bath, he saw the whole spiritual world. And he saw Krishna in the spiritual world and everything. And he was completely ecstatic. So, I mean, Krishna can give so much realization to us just by, just because he's pleased that we washed his pots, made a garland for him, cooked something for him. One time Prabhupada told the book distributors, if you distribute books every day, that one day you'll turn around to distribute the next book and Krishna will be standing there. So that's what Prabhupada was revealing, that if you just keep on trying to please Krishna, trying to please Krishna, try to please Krishna, try to please Krishna, then eventually Krishna will reveal himself and give us experience, complete realization like that. And I was just reading that in this book with Sanatana Goswami, that one of the reasons why Gopakumar wanted to be, like the king, the king of Puri, Jagannath Puri, is that he said that Jagannath talks with his servants. It's not only just acting like a stationary deity, but he's actually talks and everything, interacts with his pujaris, with his servants. So that's one of the reasons why he wanted to be right in there with the innermost crowd, is that he'll get to have that personal interaction with him. So yeah, that can be like that. He can, if he's pleased like that, if you go into like the inner circle of, very surrendered devotees, he can reciprocate with us in ways that, other people on the outside never get to experience like that. So yes, some special mercy is available if we put our hand up for it, if we want it. Okay. And that's the ultimate perfection, is that get free from all the miseries, so that's like the icing on the cake of Krishna consciousness, that if we become fully Krishna conscious and really connect with Krishna, then we won't be affected by the miseries. Yeah. Even the remaining time we're in the material world, you won't notice it very much. It'd be very minimalized. And then, of course, when you die, go back to Godhead, then there's no more miseries. But even before death, the miseries sort of, they don't have much effect on a devotee. It's like you walk out in the rain, but you've got an umbrella. So our Krishna consciousness is like an umbrella protecting us from the rain of Maya, like that. So yeah, it makes a big difference. Like today outside is all raining and pretty rotten day, very cold and wet and everything. But I was just reading this book, and yeah, it was just, I didn't care. I didn't notice it. It was just so nice. It like transported me to the spiritual world. It was just great. It was so nice. It was so nice, yeah.
No, I have watched devotees go through hard times and be affected, but not so affected by things, I think, because of their Krishna consciousness. So yeah.
Yeah, some, you know, I mean, we're in the material world still, so something is there, but it's, yeah, really minimized. It can be reduced a lot. The more the is there, the material miseries are reduced. So the more we go up on that Krishna conscious side, then the misery side goes down like that. If our Krishna conscious goes less, then the miseries come up like that. So that's what we always want to try to work.
Yeah. I'm losing you a bit now, Paper Guru.
Work on. So we encourage everyone to be Krishna. How's it going at your end?
The other internet, I'm losing. I keep